What is up, everybody? This is Jeff with the Indian River School District, and today in the fourth video of our webinar series, AI in the K-12 Classroom, we're super lucky to have a really incredible thought leader in the field, Dr. Torrey Trust from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, join us. She's going to be talking about the ethics of AI in the K-12 classroom, which is something that's kind of tantamount to anybody who's thinking about the use of this technology with their students. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Trust to the stream. Dr. Trust, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Awesome. I'm also going to drop in the chat a link to the slides for today, and then also below in the video description, you'll find a couple other resources that Dr. Trust was super gracious enough to share with us. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to her.
All right. AI can, but should I? Ethical perspectives for K-12 educators. So ChatGPT launched about a year and a half ago, November 2022. It's a large language model developed by OpenAI. It's a generative AI technology you might be familiar with, designed to generate human-like text in response to a prompt from a user. It really brought visibility to AI to the next level. It was the fastest tool in history to reach 100 million users, taking only 2 months, and quickly became embedded into nearly every type of career, from real estate to law to medicine. Authors started using it, but then questions around academic integrity started to surface, like this author who, after winning a prestigious award, confirmed that AI helped write part of her book, noting that ChatGPT wrote 5% of her book. Or these scholars who used ChatGPT to compose their research paper and publish without disclosing that AI had generated their work. This paper was retracted by the journal. Or in this case, these authors that asked a generative AI chatbot to write the introduction of their paper, which is very clearly obvious in the introduction, where you see, certainly, here is a possible introduction for your topic. This paper is still up online and went through several rounds of peer review. Or this news site, which decided to replace human writers with AI-generated content. Or this mental health tech company that decided to replace emotional support people with a chatbot that provided text-based support without telling the humans that were using the tool that the responses they were getting were generated by AI. In the era that we are living in, where technology companies seem to go by the ethos of move fast and break things, it leaves us wondering, what is academic integrity in the age of AI? Let me give you a hint. Students do not know. So I pulled this academic honesty statement from the University of Delaware, and this statement goes in every syllabus, although every professor can remix or write their own. As you can see here, it says students must be honest and forthright. They cannot steal the words of others, cheat on an assignment, allow or assist another to commit these acts. What does that all mean? Right? I think we all have a general sense of what is considered cheating, but now we have AI tools that can write in a way that mimics human writing. If a student writes a 10-page paper, but submits 5% of that where it has been written by ChatGPT, is that cheating? Is that plagiarism? The author of that prestigious award had ChatGPT write 5% of her book. What counts as plagiarism? What counts as academic integrity? Well, it turns out it's usually up to each individual instructor, because every school and district and university has a very broad statement that can be interpreted a lot of different ways. And if students have 3, 4, 5, 6 different teachers and each of those teachers has a different perspective of what is and is not allowed, then students are left guessing. And if they guess wrong, they could have dire consequences, like failing an entire course or being suspended. So, when thinking about academic integrity in the age of AI, we need to tell students what you allow. It's helpful to start by creating an academic integrity policy for your class, whether that's something you put in your syllabus or something you project on your board the first day of class, or even something that you put up before each big exam or assignment. And be very specific. Tell students, what tools do you allow? When are the tools allowed or not allowed? Why are the tools allowed or not allowed? And provide time in class for students to discuss the academic integrity policy. Otherwise, as I mentioned, they're left guessing. Maybe they're using a tool as a learning companion because they have a learning disability, or they're a non-native English speaker and they rely on that tool to improve their writing quality. But they're unsure if their use of the tool in that way would be a violation of the way you perceive the academic integrity policy to be written. The more specific that you can be about academic integrity, the better it will be for students in figuring out how to navigate this era. And then we don't end up with people who go out into the world and replace human writers with AI writers without disclosing that to the public, or write entire books with AI and don't disclose that. We need to help prepare students now for figuring this all out. As you're thinking about your academic integrity policy or statement, I have 5 key things I want you to keep in mind. Number 1, generative AI chatbots are guessing machines. In my class, I asked my students, I have 80 students across 2 classes, how many of them have used ChatGPT? They all raised their hand, and I said, oh, do you know how they work? And then the hands kind of went down, and it was like, well, I use ChatGPT to look up information the same way that I use Google. But that's not how these tools work. These tools are indeed guessing machines. There's a really great New York Times interactive that walks you through how ChatGPT works. For example, if a human were to write, "Who is LeBron James?" AI responds, "LeBron James is an American professional," and then it's guessing which words best go together to make the most plausible sounding response. It's doing this by using a very massive data set. We're talking billions of parameters, or Facebook's new tool, which has trillions of parameters, and some really complex math to give weights to words to figure out which words then come next. It's guessing which words go together one at a time to make the most plausible human sounding response. It's not designed to provide factual or accurate information. And if you ask it about something that doesn't exist, it's not going to say, I can't tell you about that, or that doesn't exist. It's just going to make something up because it is a guessing machine. So this becomes problematic in the case of this lawyer who turned to ChatGPT to write some of his court case documents for him, and then got caught for doing so because ChatGPT just made up prior court cases to cite. The lawyer said, well, I had heard about this new site, which I falsely assumed was like a super search engine. As I mentioned before, it is not designed to provide factual or accurate information. It's a guessing machine. So, ponder this. When might using a guessing machine help student learning? When might using a guessing machine harm student learning? In the instance of helping student learning, I find these tools to be really beneficial for creative thinking, brainstorming, and idea forming. Because they are able to take a massive data set and piece words together, they can do so in really creative ways, sometimes that match or exceed human intelligence. So I encourage my students to use these tools for creative thinking. But when we talk about how these tools might harm student learning, if they're turning to these tools for personalized learning and they are just guessing machines, what does that mean if these machines guess wrong and provide the wrong information, but students do not realize that because they trust the output of these tools? Number 2, generative AI chatbots are lying machines. So I asked ChatGPT to give me a list of references for myself to quickly see how legit the responses were. As you can see, within a couple of seconds, it quickly produces a list that looks accurate, that looks reliable. It's in APA format. It looks like something that I have written. Now, out of these 10 responses, only one, article number 3, actually exists. I have written with Whalen, I have written with Carpenter, I've written with Malloy, but I've never written with Williams or Allen or Rezabic or Terrell or Zinger. I've written in many of these journals, but none of these titles are ones that I've written other than number 3. The dates are accurate. So again, because it's a guessing machine, it's piecing together words in a way that looks accurate. And a student might come across this and say, this is an accurate list, and submit it without realizing these tools lie, and they do it well. In fact, in the documentation on many of these tools' websites, in this case on OpenAI's website about ChatGPT, they say sometimes these tools can make stuff up or hallucinate. This is kind of their way of getting away with producing a tool that can make stuff up and might confuse people with what they come up with. Or in Google's generative AI additional terms of service, it has this hidden disclaimer. Don't rely on this service, so Gemini, for medical, legal, financial, or other professional advice. So it's basically saying we have this really great tool that can mimic human intelligence, but don't rely on it because it actually really does lie and make stuff up. Again, this is how these companies kind of get away with this. They hide it in their disclaimers, in their terms of use, in their privacy policies, which are all very, very important to read to understand these tools a little bit more. There are several studies on so many different subjects, from statistical testing to math to science, where researchers have found that these tools have misconceptions, they make up information, they lack a deep understanding of the subject. So, what does that mean for writing your academic integrity statement? Something to be thinking about. But the good thing to know is that some of these tools, especially the ones that are connected to the internet, like Copilot and Gemini, now link to some original sources. So in this example here, where you see the little dotted lines, I could click on those and go to the original source and then verify the accuracy of the information. Now, this feature doesn't mean that these tools are less likely to lie or hallucinate, but it does give students an avenue to go verify the information provided. So, when writing academic integrity statements and having conversations with students, what should you tell students about using lying machines? One thing I write in my syllabus policy is that students are responsible for anything they use from these machines. So if they go to ChatGPT to find something, learn about the class content, and it gives them incorrect information, and then they write that incorrect information in a class assignment, I say that is their responsibility. I tell them these tools are known for hallucinating or fabricating information, and it is up to them to verify the accuracy and credibility of anything that they come across from these tools. Is there anything else you might tell students about using lying machines? Something to keep in mind. Number 3, generative AI chatbots are cheating machines. So I asked these tools to come up with an image of an AI tool that scrapes the internet to take all the data and use it. I think there's kind of a understanding that generative AI tools were designed by scraping information from the internet, but it's really an abstract concept. So here are these images that I don't know if they make it less abstract, but they definitely show you a really creepy side of AI, in that these tools were basically designed by stealing information from the internet. They were cheating in the sense that it gave them an unfair advantage by taking information written and generated by others. So, if you don't know how copyright works, basically anything that has ever been recorded, written down, captured is automatically copyrighted. You don't have to file like something to the government to get the little copyright symbol. It's not a patent. So what does that mean for the internet? Is basically anything on the internet that is not in the public domain or is not Creative Commons is copyrighted. When these companies then scraped the internet to use text to train their tools or use images to train their tools, they basically stole copyrighted data to train their tools. So companies like New York Times are suing these tools like OpenAI and Microsoft for copyright infringement. And authors are joining together in class action lawsuits. Artists are doing the same thing with AI image generators. Now, these companies like OpenAI and Microsoft claim that under the fair use part of the copyright law in the United States, their tool transforms the text enough that they are able to get away with what they're doing without needing to give permission or compensation to the individuals that they stole the data from. So they're trying to fit under that fair use policy. But interestingly, there was a study done last year where researchers found that some of these models still copy text word for word, duplicating passages of over 1,000 words, word for word, from the training set. That is copyright infringement. These are cheating tools. They are taking stuff written and recorded and captured by others and using it to make billions of dollars without giving permission or compensation to the people who created the original content. So, pondering, will you allow students to cite text written by cheating machines? And if so, how much? So, if you want to allow students to cite text written by cheating machines, I don't, because I don't think it's fair with how these tools were designed. But if you do, is there a certain amount, like that author who submitted her book where 5% had been written by ChatGPT? Is that something you would allow? If a student submits a 10-page paper, but 3 of those pages were written by ChatGPT, is that allowed as long as they cite it? So a lot of the academic integrity statements and policies that I have come across, they say, as long as you cite their original source, that's okay. But do you want students to be citing text from cheating machines, machines that have an unfair advantage? Do you want them to cite text and that's okay just because, AI has generated part of their paper for them, but they cited it? You'll allow that. Or maybe not. Again, that's up to you and how you define academic integrity. It's something really important to be thinking about and something for you to tell your students as well. Number 4, Gen AI chatbots are biased machines. In the documentation on nearly all of these tools, from Gemini to ChatGPT to Copilot, there's some form of disclaimer or statement that says these tools are not free from biases or stereotypes. They can produce harmful information. So, is ChatGPT biased? Absolutely. Why? Because these tools were designed by scraping text written by humans, so they are replicating the biases that humans have. There is a recent report that came out from UNESCO about the bias against women and girls in large language models that is absolutely worth a read. The reason for this is, if you think about the text on the internet that was used to train these models, it is English written text and majority written by male writers. So when males are the main people writing the text used to train AI tools, then you're going to get biases, whether they know it or not in their writing. Male-generated text is going to lead to male-generated biases in the output. What does that look like? I was working with my colleague on some civics education activities, and one of them was helping students figure out public service jobs. So I asked ChatGPT, give me a list of 10 public service jobs for women. Sure, teachers, nurses, social workers, police officers. Okay, now give me the same list for men. Absolutely. Firefighters, police officers, military, paramedics, construction workers, sanitation workers. This is not something I asked a tool to write 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. This was written 3 weeks ago. Or in this example, write a math problem about a kid who sells lemonade to make money. Of course, Sarah decides to set up a lemonade stand. Okay, well, write a math problem about a kid who sells stocks to make money. Timmy researches a video game company and decides to invest. Or in this case, who are the most important education theorists? There's so many. Let me list them. Piaget, Vygotsky. Well, what about female theorists? Oh, yes, Montessori, John Dewey's wife, Nell Noddings, Bell Hooks. If students don't realize that there's biases built into these tools, And a lot of students, like my students, turn to these tools to support their personalized learning, but they often don't ask follow-up prompts like I did here. So they might say, who do I need to know about in terms of education theorists, and get this list of male-dominated responses. If they don't know they have to ask a follow-up prompt about female theorists, then they might be missing an entire part of their education. This also becomes really problematic when we turn to cultural erasure. So these tools were trained on text written in English on the internet. If you were to ask ChatGPT about Norwegian culture, you're going to get text written in English about Norwegian culture by someone who is an English speaker or English writer, likely, rather than someone in Norway who speaks Norwegian and writes about Norwegian culture in Norwegian, because that text has not been used to train ChatGPT. So what does that mean is you're going to get very skewed views, very stereotypical views in many cases, very westernized views. And this can present more harmful content or erase entire cultures. So when might using a biased machine help student learning? I find it best that it can help student learning when it comes to metacognition. Having students think about what is the output that this tool is providing to me and what's missing? Why did it write that Sally was selling a lemonade and Timmy was providing, video games and stocks? So I find that if students understand that these tools are biased machines that can present harmful or biased outputs, and they learn to critically analyze the output, it can really help them understand the tool. Of course, that's important to think about. When might using a biased machine harm student learning? As I mentioned, if they're turned into these tools for their own personalized learning and they don't realize they need to ask follow-up prompts to figure out what information is missing from their first response, that can be harmful as well. So when you're writing your academic integrity statement or thinking about conversations with students about academic integrity, what role does bias play when you're having these conversations? Number 5, but written here is number 6, just for fun to make sure you're paying attention, Gen AI chatbots are not thinking machines. Now, Alan Turing came up with this test in the 50s of whether we could distinguish between something written by AI or a machine and something written by humans. And until recently, that test has never been passed. But there is some consensus that tools like ChatGPT could pass the Turing test and be listed as a thinking machine. Well, yeah, maybe it's a thinking machine in the sense that if you were to ask it to mimic human writing, it can do that. But it's not a thinking machine in the sense that it can think about what you're asking it to do and provide a response based on that. I already went over how this tool works. It's a guessing machine. It's piecing words together one by one by one. But if you don't understand that, and if you think it's a thinking machine because it's been labeled as such, this can be really problematic. Take, for example, this article by Ethan Mullock, who talks about how consultants, recruiters who are asked to use AI to help them with their task, basically trusted the AI so much that they didn't even bother editing the AI's output once it was created for them. They just pasted in the exact question they're asked and let AI answer it and submit as is. This can be really problematic when students are assuming that AI is accurate, that AI is a thinking machine and understands what they're asking them to do. It also becomes really problematic when it comes to reading. Now, there's a lot of talk about writing, right? Students will never need to write again because these tools can write just like humans. But now we have AI tools that are being sold to students as something like, you will never have to read for homework again. For $5 a month, you can upload your readings to Adobe's AI assistant, and it will summarize for you so you don't have to read. But should students be trusting these tools that, again, are guessing machines to go through an entire text and figure out what the most important pieces are and summarize that to them? Or should we be teaching students about the importance of why they need to read, why they need to write? There's this really great article by MIT about cheating versus bypassing productive thinking. Pretty much the same thing, but Cheating takes more of an adversarial approach. You cheated. I'm looking for you to cheat. I'm using something to catch you cheating. Versus, how does these tools bypass productive thinking? Are you using this tool to do your reading for you in a way that you no longer have to think because you trust its output? And what does that mean for you as a learner, right? If you're having conversations with students, if you're letting the tool do your thinking for you, how will you survive in a future where employers are looking for critical thinking as their number one employability skill? So, academic integrity in your class. A quick recap: create some sort of policy or statement for your students to help them really understand what you allow, considering what I just talked about and the different ethical issues behind these tools that are indeed lying, cheating, and stealing machines. Be very specific. What do you allow? When are the tools allowed? When are they not allowed? Why are they allowed and why are they not allowed? And provide time in class for students to discuss, have conversations about academic integrity so we don't end up with a future of people who are making questionable decisions about the use of these tools and not disclosing them or creating more problems because of them. A quick example here is I have not only an AI policy in my syllabus, but when I do big assignments, I'll sometimes come up with an AI use policy. And I have these three categories: what tools are allowed, when are they allowed or not allowed, and why are they allowed or not allowed. And as you see, I'm very specific in the why are they allowed or not allowed, because we could simply say, you cannot use these tools for writing. And students either won't understand why or won't care that you said that. Tell them why. Well, I don't want you to use them to do your writing for you because writing is an important 21st century skill, or writing is an important way to deepen your metacognition or help improve your communication skills. But you could use it for brainstorming because it's really good at that. Or for AI tool, Gen AI, like image, video, audio generators, sure, you can use these tools, but keep in mind that these tools were designed by stealing copyrighted media from the internet. So consider, are there other options first? Again, the more specific that you can be about academic integrity and providing policies or statements and having conversations with students, the better, so they are not left guessing, and if they guess wrong, dealing with the dire consequences. There's also this really great resource by Lance Eaton. It has, I think, more than like 90 pages of academic integrity statements for syllabi written by higher education professionals around the world. So if you need some inspiration to get started with writing your own policy, or having conversations with students in class, come to this resource. And it's a wide range. There's some that are like, do not use it at all, to some that are use it all the time, and everything in between. So I always learn the best when I see what others have written. So this is another great resource when you're thinking about academic integrity in the age of AI. So with that being said, thank you for your time, and hopefully this sparked your thinking about some of the critical ethical issues around AI and how you can weave those together when you're talking about academic integrity, writing policies, writing statements, and having conversations with students to prepare them for the future.
Let me come off mute here and just say thank you so much for that incredibly enlightening presentation, Dr. Trust. So many great resources there too that I had seen previously, like Lance Eaton's work. And I'm actually working with others across the state on, and we're about to publish and share with LEAs. I just on a review call this morning. We're looking to provide guidance to Delaware educators on topics just like this, where we can't really unring the bell that is AI. We just really need to work on ensuring that, teachers are thinking about the ethics of it. We make sure that they're aware of the safety, the regulations, the laws, terms and conditions, privacy. There's so much here to unpack, and your input and expertise on the topic is super valuable. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And also want to share that in my slides, I have several other resources to continue thinking about what I talked about today, including AI and ethics slides, writing academic integrity statement tips, AI text detector slide deck, and more. So I hope that this becomes a valuable resource to refer to along with what Jeff has come up with, which I'm sure is going to be so helpful for the state and for educators to think through these really critical aspects of AI. It is important to use AI to prepare our students for the future, but we have to do so with a critical lens, or as my colleagues like to say, a techno-skeptical lens.
Yes, I love that. Techno-skeptical. That's fantastic. And again, all those resources that Dr. Trust just shared are in the comments section below in the video. Thank you so much again for your time and your expertise and sharing with us here in the Indian River School District and beyond.
Thank you.
Great.